Welcome everyone to my review of Archie Sonic the Hedgehog issue 30. The cover and title card do not lie. We are witnessing the return of Uncle Chuck, who was last seen in any capacity in issue 16, the one where the Freedom Fighters were trapped in Robotnik's VR machine in case you forgot. So what role will he have in this story? By the way, if you enjoy what I do here, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel. I really do appreciate it. Let's not waste any more time and dive right into this issue. We begin with Sonic dreaming about eating an endless supply of chili dogs, while Uncle Chuck keeps wheelbarrowing them in. Sally wakes him up, and the dream was so good, he was chomping on his own shoe. He brings up how he misses Uncle Chuck and couldn't find a way to save him. Sally reassures him that he will one day, but Sonic's worried that until then, Robotnik might be using him as part of a sinister plot. Turns out Sonic's right as we see Robotnik and Snivley prepare a test of their trans-dimensional teleporter after doing some work on it, with Uncle Chuck as their test subject. Snivley comments that it's a waste of a good worker, but Robotnik says if the teleporter works, they can bring Uncle Chuck back, and if it doesn't, Snivley will take his place. Robotnik, foregoing Snivley's final test, activates the machine, and it sends him straight into the void. He demands that Snivley bring him back right now. However, Snivley seizes the opportunity to take over and show Robotnik how he will deal with Sonic and the Freedom Fighters. What they don't know is, thanks to the botched test, Uncle Chuck has regained his free will. Meanwhile, Sonic's visiting the old chili dog stand, and Uncle Chuck pops in. He proves his identity to him, and later the other Freedom Fighters, by cooking up some chili dogs. Once that's settled, Uncle Chuck warns everyone about Snivley's takeover, and the possibility of him using the trans-dimensional teleporter, which is bad. Even Nicole comes to the conclusion that Snivley's conquest could lead to the destruction of Mobius. There is hope. No one in the enemy camp knows Uncle Chuck is free, thus making him the perfect spy. We head back to the trap Robotnik and Snivley, who's now dressed just like his former boss. His plan involves attaching a smaller trans-dimensional teleporter to a biplane and have it scoop up sections of Mobius, including the Freedom Fighters. Uncle Chuck walks in, and Snivley, unaware that he's regained his full senses, hands him the plans with orders to have it built ASAP. Later, Sonic and Uncle Chuck meet up at the hangar where the biplane is. Uncle Chuck has Sonic try to disable the craft while he attends to other business. We'll see what that other business is soon. As Sonic tries to find the plane, he's caught by surprise and sent into the void. Snivley launches the biplane and gloats about his victory over Sonic. He's letting Sonic witness from the void how he will zap portions of Mobius to the exact same place unless the Freedom Fighters surrender. And he gives a demonstration to show that he's not playing. A second biplane arrives and starts shooting at Snivley. Makes sense when we learn that Uncle Chuck is on board, along with a mysterious passenger. Unfortunately for them, Snivley is an excellent pilot. Sonic needs to distract Snivley long enough for the second plane to score a hit. And it just so happens, he still has a backpack full of chili dogs. Sonic scarfing down 2 chili dogs at once is enough to catch Snivley's attention. Uncle Chuck scores a hit to the thrusters, removing the first plane's forward momentum. Snivley's not done though. He plans to destroy his biplane and the trans-dimensional teleporter in order to send everything within a 100-mile radius into the void, including the Freedom Fighters and himself. But Snivley has a way out thanks to the outfit he's wearing. So yeah, he's about to do it until the guest from the second biplane arrives, Robotnik. Uncle Chuck freed him from the void in order to stop Snivley from destroying Mobius. In exchange, Robotnik is not to harm Sonic, the Freedom Fighters, and Snivley. And he will keep his word. Today. Besides, Robotnik wants to make Snivley's life miserable for a long time. Anyway, Sonic is freed, and later we see him welcoming home Uncle Chuck as he stuffs his face with chili dogs. Kind of a nice way to bookend the story, huh? There is a short story that has Robotnik wanting to hunt down the culprit that keeps stealing his Chaos Emeralds. He's got surveillance footage of the individual, but they're in shadow. He orders Coconuts to go to a secret island to protect his remaining emeralds. Coconuts then sets up a bunch of traps from a book his coyote friend lent him. Must be some kind of super genius, huh? When the intruder arrives, they bypass the traps easily. When Coconuts inspects each trap, they go off on him. Even the one that's supposed to trigger when the thief steals the emeralds didn't work out. As punishment for failure, Robotnik reduces Coconuts to a head, and Coconuts will want to have a word with his coyote friend. The final panel reveals that Bunny was the one who stole the emeralds in order to have some bling for a charity dance. Some quick notes. This story was written by Paul Castigliega, who previously did edit work on some of the earlier Sonic issues, including the Pseudo-Sonic one, the NURBS, and the first appearance of Evil Sonic. And this is one of 2 stories he's written. We'll get to number 2 down the line. The story is a short Looney Tunes-esque outing with Coconuts in the Wile E. Coyote role, and Bunny being the one he fails to catch. And Bunny is an interesting choice because Paul could have easily chosen Sonic as the Roadrunner analog due to them being speedy characters. I believe Bunny being chosen is a shout out to the time Wile E. Coyote, super genius, went toe-to-toe with Bugs Bunny himself. No guess as to who won that confrontation. There are things like Robotnik having all those Chaos Emeralds in the first place, and why Bunny's using those powerful gems as jewelry. But they can be written off as, it's just a silly story, it has no bearing on the series overall, and it's more of a lighthearted romp for the young audience. Before moving on, I'd like to point out how Spaz's artwork has improved a bit, and this style will appear again in one of my favorite story arcs, Mecha Madness. But that's in the future. The status quo has changed significantly with the return of Uncle Chuck. For one, the Freedom Fighters have another tech genius that can aid them, and 2, it's the conclusion of a very loose plot thread that began in the original Sonic miniseries, Sonic wanting to free his Uncle Chuck. His dog Mutsky will have to wait another day. This brings the comic series even more closer to SatAM in terms of tone because that series also dealt with Uncle Chuck's mind returning while still being a robot. The first time it happened in Season 1 was sadly only temporary. When it happened again in early Season 2, it was thankfully more permanent, and throughout that season, Uncle Chuck would act as a spy for the Freedom Fighters. Issue 30 shouts out that plot thread. Unfortunately, Uncle Chuck cannot be a spy for the Freedom Fighters at the moment. He did reveal that he got his free will back to Robotnik while freeing him after all. That situation will be rectified in just a few issues. This is also the first issue where Snivley makes a power play against the main villain. I'm not counting issue 22 as it was just Snivley accidentally triggering Robotnik's Dead Man switch. Snivley's treachery was another SatAM Season 2 edition, and not only did it carry over to the comics, we actually get to see what would happen if he actually had the chance to take over Mobius in Robotnik's absence. Apparently, it would be disastrous according to numerous people. Him using the transdimensional teleporter in an unconventional way did not help matters. Still, I admire his conviction until Robotnik returned and scared him straight. Yeah, things were that bad. This won't be the only time Snivley will attempt a takeover of the Empire, and the results of each attempt will vary. One more element from SatAM Season 2 that was introduced in this story is the Void, the place where Robotnik banished King Acorn in the cartoon. The caption here implies that the king was sent into the Void instead of the Zone of Silence, as stated by an earlier issue. To clarify things right now, the Zone of Silence and the Void are separate places, and the king was sent into the former. In universe, you could say that the teleporter can access other places other than the Void. This whole thing would eventually be rectified when both the Zone and the Void would merge into one place, but that's a subject for another day. The story definitely captures the spirit of SatAM. That usually happens whenever Angelo is on writing duty. This is helped by Art Mahoney's penciling. Plus, it's always nice to have a story with a definitive happy ending every once in a while. Alright, the next issue, number 31, will feature the return of Jeffrey St. John, aka Skunk Boy from the Sally miniseries, and Sonic will meet him for the first time. Oh boy. I'll see you then. Look at it this way, Snivley. The next time you put on an outfit similar to the main villains, it'll be in a color more to your liking.